Old Grognard says, let's look at how non-magical healing works in 2nd edition AD&D. Welcome back to Old Grognard says. Towards the end of our last video, I briefly got on the subject of non-magical healing and realized that I have not yet done a video on how that works. So in this video, we're going to look at natural healing and how it relates to the healing and herbalism proficiencies, because those three things are all tied together. If we go to page 105 in the PHB or page 74 in the DMG, there's a section titled Natural Healing. It doesn't matter which book we look at because the text is exactly the same in both of them. Under Natural Healing, it says, characters heal naturally at the rate of 1 hit point per day of rest. Rest is defined as low activity, nothing more strenuous than riding a horse or traveling from one place to another. Fighting, running in fear, lifting a heavy boulder, or any other physical activity prevents resting since it strains old wounds and may even reopen them. So, reading the rules here, characters gain a hit point each day as long as they avoid fight or flight situations, and you could argue a good rule of thumb for the lifting a heavy boulder part might be if they make bend bars, lift gates rolls. The next paragraph talks about bed rest and tells us, if a character has complete bed rest, doing nothing for an entire day, he can regain 3 hit points for that day. For each complete week of bed rest, the character can add any constitution hit point bonus he might have to the base of 21 hit points, 3 points per day, he regained during that week. And then regarding both situations, it says, in both cases above, the character is assumed to be getting adequate food, water, and sleep. If these are lacking, the character does not regain any hit points that day. Now let's go to page 59 in the PHB to look at the healing and herbalism proficiencies. I'm not going to read off the entire text of what the descriptions say, but rather just talk about how healing and herbalism affect the healing rules described earlier. In the description of the healing proficiency, it says, if a wounded character remains under the care of someone with healing proficiency, that character can recover lost hit points at the rate of 1 per day even when traveling or engaging in non-strenuous activity. If the wounded character gets complete rest, he can recover 2 hit points per day while under such care. Only characters with both healing and herbalism proficiencies can help others recover at the rate of 3 hit points per day of rest. This care does not require a proficiency check, only the regular attention of the proficient character. Up to 6 patients can be cared for at any time. The text on natural healing in the PHB and DMG and the text on healing proficiency say almost the same thing. It seems that the rules under natural healing are written to assume the healing and herbalism proficiencies are being used. So this leaves us with the question, how does natural healing work if we're not using the healing and or herbalism proficiencies? Let's make a table and figure this out. So from the text, we can identify that there are 3 situations that affect regaining hit points naturally. There's strenuous activity like fighting, fleeing, and lifting stuff. There's non-strenuous activity like traveling. And then there's complete or bed rest. Across the top here, I'll put the 3 different skill situations that are relevant. Those are normal, meaning no proficiencies, with healing proficiency, and with healing and herbalism both. Let's look at the text and fill in the blanks for how many hit points we gain per day after our characters get food, water, and sleep. Hit points are awarded after the characters finish sleeping and are based on what they did the day before. I figured most of you knew this already, but if you didn't, now you know. So under the healing proficiency, it says here, if a wounded character remains under the care of someone with healing proficiency, that character can recover lost hit points at the rate of 1 per day, even when traveling or engaging in non-strenuous activity. So under non-strenuous and healing proficiency, we can put a 1. This block of text implies that if we don't have the proficiency, we don't get any hit points, so under non-strenuous and normal, we get a 0. It also doesn't say anything about getting anything extra from herbalism, so we'll put a 1 here as well. Across the top here under strenuous activity, nowhere does it say we get back hit points in any case, so they're all zeros. Next, let's look at this other bit of text under the healing proficiency. If the wounded character gets complete rest, he can recover 2 hit points per day while under such care. Only characters with both healing and herbalism proficiencies can help others recover at the rate of 3 hit points per day of rest. So based on this, we can put a 2 here and a 3 here. This implies that without the proficiency, we gain fewer hit points. So right here, we can put a 1. What's funny about this is that if we look at the normal column, this is how healing works in first edition AD&D as described on page 82 of the first edition DMG. When characters rest, and by rest I mean do nothing, they get back 1 hit point per day. They then mention the thing where if characters rest for 7 days, they add their constitution bonus to the hit points they gain. The example given is that a fighter with an 18 con would get 11 hit points after a week of complete rest, which would be the 7 they get for resting a week, and then 4 more for their con bonus. In the same block of text, they also mention how this works for characters with low constitution, which is that they have to rest for a number of days equal to their negative hit point modifier before they get any HP. So, for example, a character whose constitution gives them -2 hit points per level wouldn't gain any hit points for the first 2 days of rest and would get 5 per week. There's also a caveat listed where, regardless of how many hit points a character has or doesn't have, if they rest for 4 weeks, they regain all lost HP. Again, this is all first edition, but I thought it was worth mentioning because it helps us understand the thought process that went into this. What I think happened when they wrote the second edition materials was that the authors, editors, developers, etc., all assumed that we would already know the basic healing rules from first edition and that we would have that for context. So now that we know how the rules as written work, or at least a functional interpretation of them, I'm going to show you how my natural healing house rules work. So I reduce the circumstances for healing to 2 states: rest, which means doing nothing, and not resting, which means doing something. Adjudicating this is easy. Characters aren't resting unless they declare they're resting, so like how they have it in first edition. Like it says in the description of healing above, this set of rules assumes the characters are getting adequate food, water, and sleep. Characters get 1 hit point per day if they aren't resting, regardless of proficiency. If they are resting but don't have a healer, they get 2 hit points per day. Under the care of a healer, they get 3 hit points per day, and with herbalism and healing both, they get 4 hit points per day. Other than that, it works as described in the PHB and DMG. Thanks for watching. Cleric of Ceiling Cat and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day.